Are you looking to level up your author business?
Are you pounding your head against a wall, wondering what your next step should be? Then join me, Daniel Wilcox.
And me, Sacha Black, as we haul ass each week in a bid to level up.
Level up!
Come along for the ride as we delve deep into the business of writing,
Craft,
entrepreneurship,
and every level of the author journey. This is the Next Level Author Podcast.
Hello, Achievers. Well, that was so conversational. Welcome to episode 104 of the Next Level Authors Podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account.
It's
Wow, it's because I'm reading it straight from the script.
Wow.
Episode 106. This is staying.
Wow.
Episode 106 of the podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress as we level up our author business. My name is Daniel Wilcox, and here with me every single week is...
It's a very unimpressed Sacha. What the fuck was that intro?
I don't know. We're doing back-to-back. So I thought I'd try and mix it up, make it a bit of fun. You know, all the energy was in the preamble. So you're getting what is left in the reserve tank.
Hi.
How was your week been?
Well, my week was much the
Yes.
same as last week. No, I'm
Mhm.
joking. I mean, this is in the future, right? So I'm going to have gone to London Book Fair. And given that all of my predictions have been shite thus far, I'm thinking I'm going to keep my fucking mouth shut and not say a goddamn thing about next week.
Oh, Christmas was such a pile of shit.
It's Christmas, man. Let us never make the mistake again of making predictions.
Oh, prediction.
Oh my
I'm
God.
going to have such fun with my family. No, I'm just going to spend 10 days locked in the room because of COVID.
Honest to God. Yeah, so I don't know how my week has been. It's a fucking mystery, guys.
You're
It's
right.
a
I think it's best
mystery.
that we don't.
I think it is best
Like-
that none of us say a goddamn thing about next week.
No, what I do know is that next week will be half term and I'll have the boy. So I'm planning on still chipping away at stuff, but making it like very light because I will have finished a book. Well, by the time this goes out, the book will be finished. So I will have a little bit of leeway to ease up off the throttle for a week while I spend some time with him. But yeah, I don't want to make any fucking predictions either. Just it's terrifying.
We are we are too traumatized from having made mistakes.
Mate, like I want a proper rest. I want a proper week off.
I would stop. I would stop.
I'm
I
not saying
would
next week.
not-
I'm just saying that's what I'm like dying for. I didn't say this on last week's like an hour ago's podcast. Part of my sort of birthday celebrations, I went for an hour in an isolation pod.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
Is that the one where there's like no sound, no light, no nothing
Yeah,
sensory?
it's just
Is
a
it in
big.
water?
It's in salt water, so you float.
Oh my God.
And it
Oh
was
my God.
One of the like the coolest and just like most surreal experiences I've had. So you're in this pod that literally has like a big handle. You bring it down. The water's sort of warm, but not too warm, but obviously like not cold because you're in it for an hour. 10 minutes of ambient music with sort of like a light, and then you turn the light off and it just goes into silence and darkness for 45 minutes. And then the music comes back on for 5 minutes, the lights come back on, and it kind of like eases you out of it. It was bizarre, but I really enjoyed it. Like, because there's that fear of time just stretching and dragging and you feeling like you're lost. And I will say it's the darkest dark I've been in. I've not been in the point where like, it doesn't matter if your eyes are open or closed. It's the same.
Oh, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, it was like, so a couple of things for people to be aware of if you want to try it. Number one, any scratches or abrasions, just be careful because it's very salt water, but they do have like Vaseline to put over things so it doesn't hurt. I didn't realize that my foot was scratched until I got into the thing. And then I got out, was like Vaseline, and then back in. The other thing is it will never be complete uninterrupted isolation, because as you're lying on the water, you're slowly shifting at like 1 millimeter a minute. So every now and then you'll just kind of go dunk on your head on the side of the tank, or like your toe will kind of go dunk, and then you're like, ooh. But it was an experience. Like, I'm pretty sure I fell asleep. I don't remember falling asleep, but I remember
In
waking
the
up.
water.
Yeah,
How did you not drown?
it's salt water. You float. You literally cannot like sink, because it's so heavily salted with this like special salt that like even if you put your arms down, they just spring back up.
So I know because I've been in the Dead Sea in Israel, right?
Yes.
I don't know. So the
Yes,
Dead Sea
yeah.
in Israel is a salt water,
Very
like
salty.
very, very, very salty.
Yeah.
And you float in the water, and it is surreal because you can sort of make yourself float in any water, right? You can.
Yeah.
But like when you are forced to float, it is a very bizarre experience.
Yeah.
But isolation pods freak me out. Like I sort of want to have a go, but I don't know if I could do 45 minutes. Can you get out if you get scared?
Yeah. It's all like there's a handle you can grab and like everything. Like it's set up in a way that, you know, there's even a bell that you can ring for reception if like anything bad happens. But honestly, like, because as I say, I was scared that time would stretch and it would feel like forever, and it didn't. It was good. Like, and then literally just to be trapped in your thoughts with like nothing.
Is the water in your ears?
No, you get little like sort of wax putty earbud things that you can like press into your ears to stop that.
So could you hear your own breathing?
Yes.
Oh yeah, see, that would annoy me.
But like, I would say that I thought the things that I thought about a lot. Number one, I'd watched the Will Smith Chris Rock encounter that morning, and that played very, very heavily in my experience because, without going like too dramatic on it, that's basically like shattered the perception of a person that I adored.
Will Smith.
Yeah, and so that played.
Whoa! Why did it shatter your perception of him?
Because he was the family-friendly entertainer. He was the nice guy. And like, I've recently read his book, and there's a lot in there that kind of explains where some of that would have come from. But it was just one of those things where I have had great respect for, like, he's probably like one of my favorite actors up until then.
Do you not think he was justified?
I think that's a discussion that's not really like within my hands to justify. Like, potentially there might have been, but at the same time, knowing who I am and what my values are, I feel like there could have been other ways to have settled something like that rather than to just outlandishly do what he did.
Interesting.
But as I say, that's a whole separate conversation. So that played in my mind. And then there was one point, because obviously you see like the colors in your mind's eye and things are shifting and you see patterns and your thoughts are going. And there was one point, which was probably the weirdest point, where just right at the bottom of the periphery of my right eye was like a blue flame. And I'm not saying like when you close your eyes and you see all different colors, like this was like a bright sort of vivid blue flame, almost like a wisp that you imagine. And every time I tried to go see it, it would just kind of like flicker away and then kind of come back when I was relaxing. And that happened for about 2 or 3 minutes. I was like, And I don't know if the only thing I can think of is like, because you're in such isolation, your brain begins to go like firing, like I need to give you some sort of stimulus. But yeah, and then it kind of, the 45 minutes came around and the music started back up and I was like, that was really, really bizarre, but also really, really awesome.
That is so cool.
Gives me lots of ideas.
Yeah.
So that's
the first time I ever encountered isolation pods was in one of Dan Brown's books. And I was like, this is weird as fuck. These can't be real. And then like, obviously they are real. So that was weird. But yeah.
I've got a short story, which is basically set with people who have monetized isolation tanks to where people who need money go into the tanks. People who have money watch them and they put in hallucinogenic gas. And then just basically like, it's got almost like a reverse Monsters Inc. if you think about it, but it's kind of like people watching people suffer for entertainment. But I very enjoyed that.
Your mind, such a nice place.
What's something that you enjoyed? I know what this is.
Well, I am excited. Hang on a second. I'm just changing over my candle live on air. Okay.
The entertainment value.
I know. I know. You guys, you come for treats. I give you all the treats.
There we go.
Okay, so what have I enjoyed this week? Well, Scott fucking Williamson. That's what I've enjoyed this week. He is a naughty boy. He is an antagonizing bastard in the best possible way. So, as you know, I read a lot. And as a competition person, it's always healthy to have somebody whose tail I'm chasing, right? Somebody who's just that little bit better than you, because it constantly makes you grow, develop. It constantly makes you push because, yes, you want to beat them, but it's about that inner growth. And it's about that, how can I make myself better? And all you're doing is you're using that other person as like a goalpost almost, that you want to then surpass. It's not really about the other person. Right. It's about you, but that is where you derive your motivation from. So one of the things that I have done without realizing. And I think Scott even helped me realize that this was a thing that I was doing, is I've always watched how many books that V.E. Schwab reads every year. So I don't even remember how it came up, but suffice to say, Scott basically convinced me that I was competing against Schwab.
You announced it on this podcast.
Yeah, so I was sort of competing against her, but like a previous year's total rather than her current year's total. And I did beat her the year that I was trying to beat, I beat her total. And anyway, so, but then other patrons picked it up and it became more of a current thing. And I was like, guys, like, I'm not competing against her current year. Like she fucking reads like 78 million books. I mean, literally last year, I think it was like 158 books. And this year, I think she's aiming for like 175. Like, how the fuck?
How does she write?
I don't know. I literally don't know. She doesn't have kids, so that's a start.
There you go.
Anyway, so yeah, like it's a bit of an on-running joke because everybody knows that I love her. Like I own, I think, all of her books, and like I've read a lot of them. I haven't finished, but I am aiming to finish all of the books she's written, and I will read every single word she's ever written, like over time. So I love her, but also I hate her. And like I like, anyway, there's like other stuff and other layers to this. Scott knows all of this and loves to antagonize me. Scott also happened to book in to go and see her when she recently did a talk in Edinburgh at one of the Waterstones, I think it was the Waterstones. Anyway, and so there Scott was trundling along with his book that he wanted to get signed when he hands another book to her. And so I have this card that he sent, which says, "Fuck you," which is the start of this story. So I open this packet and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, who has sent me this card? And then I open it and I about piss my pants. And so the conversation that Scott had with Victoria Schwab was, "Scott, this is for my friend Sacha, who is in a secret competition with you to read more books. Do you want to know how Schwab responded?" I'll fucking tell you how she responded. Her response was, "Well, as long as I'm winning." So I about lost my shit. When I first read it, I was like, nah, there's no way she said that. Like, he must have made that up. And anyway, so I asked him and I messaged and I was like, get the fuck out. Like, did she actually say that? And he was like, yeah, she said it. So now I will have to fucking, I don't even know, but like, I will have to eclipse her success because there ain't nobody that's going to talk to me that way. So it is fucking on now. Yeah. Like, I will do an awful lot out of spite. So yeah, and if she isn't top 5 competition, I will eat my hat. Like, that is the most competition response ever. That's the sort of shit I would say, which is exactly why it annoyed me that she said it.
How many books you want, Sacha?
Not as many as her.
No, that's a shame, isn't it?
No, I don't care. I'm not competing with her on her books this year. So, you know, you can try and wind me up all that you want. But I will roll my eyes in exactly the same fashion that I roll my eyes at Scott. I tell you what, he is a devious little motherfucker. That's definitely wins some points for that. It was a magnificent effort and fucking I
do kind of feel like if anyone ever sent me anything from like Stephen King or Nick Cutter, that I would name my next baby after them. I feel like that would just happen.
Thankfully for me, I'm not having any more kids.
Me neither. Okay, so that's thanks, something, Scott. That's something that we've enjoyed. So obviously we don't have comments or anything from last week because this is a back-to-back episode because of London Book Fair and all that kind of good stuff. Just a reminder for people who want to join us on Patreon, we've got our Patreon lives each month where you can jump on Zoom and join us for an hour and ask questions and also get early access to all of the NLA episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/nextlevelauthors for that. I do have level up from Lena Johnson, who said, I just hit my Q1 goal of reaching 500 subscribers on my newsletter. I also got a lovely email about my reader magnet saying I can't remember enjoying a short story this much since I read Mark Twain's The Corruption of Hadleyburg, and that was probably 60 years ago. Excuse me while I float away on my cloud of happiness. That's massive. I love that. And what a goal as well. 500 subscribers is no small feat. So congrats, Lena. Okay, and so in the stead of what we would normally discuss, what we are going to talk about, because by the time this goes live, we will have put up the post for our Q2 challenge, because we're already in Q2 of 2022, which is insane. But neither of us have really kind of like formalized what we're going to do for the next 3 months. We thought we'd have a little natter about kind of some of the main goals that we're looking at. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So, I mean, I do know what I'm going to do. What I am going to struggle with is putting something specific for this purpose, because the minute I do that, I just don't want to do it. And I don't find it motivating. So it's a bit of a problem, because I have a very, so basically I've cleared the decks and I've got 3 things. So I'm finishing a course and working on 2 books, and that's it. I'm not doing anything else. I'm basically saying no to everything else. But I'm very reluctant to put like a word count goal, because I will immediately try and not do it. So I'm going to have to think about how I might put another Sapphic number of books that I have to read, because that was quite helpful. I did find that motivating, because I knew I had to read that many. I obviously wanted to, but I knew I had to. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do this, because I need to be very careful with what I say I'm accountable for, because this is a really important quarter and I actually really need to do the work, and I really don't want to get demotivated by this stupid fucking like anything. So
that doesn't make sense.
I know, but it's where I derive the motivation from, I suppose, right? Like, and who, like, I don't know. But like the minute I say, but then I want to wheedle out of it, right? So I suppose it depends on what, like, so with the read a minimum of 5 Sapphic books for this, I was like, yeah, I can do that. I can absolutely do that, right? But the minute I don't know what it is. I don't know.
I definitely, for the last quarter, I definitely wrestled in that ambitious but also achievable, because I got very fucking close to doing my one, but also I hadn't factored in, as I wouldn't have, that I was then going to spend 2 weeks of my life like slamming a campaign for Ukraine.
And so, like, when I look at my last quarter, we started with Chloe, who had COVID, then Atlas got COVID. I dislocated my kneecap, then Atlas got COVID again. We've had a broken down car. We've had kid allergies. Like, I've actually had very little working time, and none of those things are in my control. And when I set a goal and then life gets in the way, I get incredibly demotivated. Well, that is why I'm reluctant to set something.
Let me ask a question coming from a different angle. What did you achieve last quarter? How can you not think? I've got 3 things of yours off the top of my head.
Well, there are things that I ticked off my list, but in terms of achievements, I don't feel like I achieved much, because the things that I did things, but the things that I derive achievement from are getting books finished.
This
right?
is fascinating, because you've finished Trey edits.
Yeah.
And Victor. No?
Victor's already out. Sirens, but Sirens was only a novella, and
Sirens,
it was basically done prior.
Only a novella.
Yeah.
Only
Sirens was already done. I just handed that to the editor.
Yeah.
And got it up and published.
And launched Rebel Diaries.
Yeah.
This is fascinating.
I didn't write any new words, really. Did I write like 8K this month?
Yeah, because of the shit that you did. Like, words aren't the only measure of success, Sacha.
They are the most significant measure of success.
Yeah, but you still got to launch the damn things.
But that is a measure of, but you just fit that in. That is a measure of output, right? And so for me, the most important thing right now is production and what I am producing. So like,
and launching doesn't count as production.
No, that's publishing,
which is part of the production process.
Yeah, but I fit the publishing.
This is really interesting.
In and around, right? I fit the publishing in and around because that is the easy shit. I can do that in the interstitial periods in the day, right? I can do that with family responsibilities and obligations. I can't write words when I'm being interrupted every 30 seconds.
I just realized how much you're going to hate my question today.
Let's
so go on, what have you achieved?
What are your quarter? I'm not even answering that question. Fuck nothing, Dan. What are you doing for next quarter?
Hold on, let me just Next Level Authors podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to check that was the intro to our podcast. As we level up our
Wow.
yeah, it was. So last quarter, I had a number of big goals for last quarter, which is actually, I realize I'm kind of away from the mic at the minute. My private goals were 3 books. I did 2 books. There are reasons, and I'm fine with that. I'm happy with that. Launched the survey, which I haven't done. Again, this quarter is, in the process of announcing that I'm giving up ghostwriting, it has meant that some priorities have shifted. And so there are certain things I have to focus on. Like, it's not, I'm still working away at the background, but it's not, in the position where I would have wanted it to be at this point had everything gone smoothly. What are the other ones? 3 short stories. I did 2. Still happy with that. Very, very happy with that. Join an in-person community. I haven't done, but what I have done is found a few that I'm interested in. I'm just trying to work out which angle to take, because, for example, I'd love to join like a fitness group of some kind, whether that's a sport or, I don't know, something a bit more to work on my physical activity. Oh my God. But also I've seen that there's like a really cool entrepreneurial group local that I potentially might look at joining, because it would also help my business and just means meeting new people. Launch podcast, I did, and then run a mastermind, which I did. And obviously I'm working on the next one at the minute. So I've already kind of mentioned it, but what I didn't kind of anticipate was the Writers for Ukraine launch. So, I'm fine with having missed a couple of those, because, we raised £14,500 for charity, which is like insane. And I'm very happy with it. But for the quarter going ahead, the priority really needs to be on the productivity book and the mastermind, and just kind of really next leveling my author services and what I'm offering to people, because I am more confident than I definitely was this time a year ago. I'm much more driven. I'm much more ambitious. I'm working with a business coach to obviously help with a lot of the sort of behind the scenes stuff, and to make sure that, they're fruitful and they work and they deliver the value that I want them to deliver. And so a big part of Q2 is going to be basically, I think, just really, and it seems weird saying laying the foundation for activated authors, but it is, because it's been an iterative journey since the end of 2020, with obviously the boot camp evolving into the writers group, evolving into activated authors. We officially launched September 2021. But it's still like, it was finding its character. There was still a lot of stuff where it was like trying to define specifically what it is activated authors is. And now at that point where, based off of, all of the data I've got from before, I've distilled what it is that we offer, what it is that I want to bring into the author space. And so sort of doubling down on that and really trying to find a way to formalize, streamline, and grow and scale what it is that we're doing with activated authors, because I massively believe in everything that's going on backstage. So that would kind of be where my focus is. I think, like you, I'm reticent to formalize a goal sort of on the spot. I definitely need to sit down and think about what that looks like. But that is kind of where I'm heading, because the beautiful thing about this is, if I can get this right, and I will try my fucking damnedest to get this right, is that I will be servicing authors in a way that I haven't really seen from other people. I'll be like, and delivering my best self and be confident with what it is I'm giving. Financially, I'll be able to support myself away from ghostwriting, but then also just the headspace and the time that I will have to then focus on my own creative projects. So like, I've mentioned this before to people, but for anyone who's kind of like new on this podcast, my creative output really has to be a minimum of 15,000 words a week for ghostwriting, which, is quite a hefty sum. And in doing that, like, I can manage it, but in doing that, it leaves very little in the tank to focus on my own creative fiction when I'm also trying to grow a coaching business. So since it was last year, since March of 2021, I put everything that I was doing on the board. It was way too much, and all I've been doing over the past year is constantly cutting down, streamlining, and getting very, very specific with the things that I believe that I excel at, and the things that also will reward me. And part of that means that, Devil's Rock Publishing, I still publish my fiction books through that, but I had plans to scale that, and that's gone totally down. I've handed off things to different people who will definitely do a better job than I will, because it gives those projects their full attention rather than my sort of half attention. And we've spoken about boundaries on this podcast, and I think a lot of those lessons have really started to sink into the point that I can see a very sort of tangible route ahead. So yeah, my Q2 is going to be very sort of nose to the grindstone as I level up and get everything in place for the next chapter.
Mine too.
Sink or swim.
Yep.
Let's do it.
You're leading.
I know. I'm just letting it linger for a minute.
Oh.
And also every now and then I like to just sit in silence and see how it makes people feel. People don't like silence.
This podcast not really supposed to have silence.
I know, and there isn't. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's kind of like the bulk of things. Obviously, people who have put down their successes on the Q1 challenge, we don't know who they are at the minute, so we can't announce prizes, but we'll do that on next week's episode. And notices.
So I'm going to stick with the Rebel Diaries.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like the Rebel Diaries is out. It's an anthology of 13 short stories with morally grey characters, sapphic pirates, angry witches, sarcastic demons, vengeful witches. Yeah, like it is genuinely fucking awesome. So, you should probably
check it out.
Copy. Yeah.
Link in show notes. And I'll go to the Writers to Authors Mastermind, which is my program in which I'll be coaching a very, very dedicated group of people from being writers to becoming authors, choosing your own creative goal so that I can help you along the way. It's a mixture of group coaching, one-on-one coaching, a bunch of extra services and things to help you achieve what it is that you want to achieve at the end of that 6 months. And really is kind of like a big accelerator to help you forward in your author business. So check that out at activatedauthors.com/mastermind. And now the question you're going to hate me for. So, excuse me, we have skirted around this on occasion. I think I'm surprised to see that we haven't actually done sort of a specific deep dive into this. We've spoken about how do we look ahead and plan for and organize time for this.
I already hate the question.
But the question is, how do you rest?
We have done this.
We haven't. We've done how do you plan for rest? I checked this morning. Because that was about how do you put a break in your schedule to recover.
You are an asshole. I don't rest. That is the short of it. I don't rest, if I'm honest, and I'm not proud of it, but it is, I think, a symptom of where I am in my life right now. I get up and I sort the kid out. Chloe often irons his shirt, and between us, like we sort of make sure he makes his own breakfast now. And then I do the school run, and then I come back and I work until 3:15 or just before I go and do the school run. And then I usually do an hour of admin, and then it's like make dinner, clean the house, feed the kid, get the kid in the shower, or if he's had a shower in the morning, then like get the kid in the pajamas, do the stories, put him to bed. At the moment, I would say 4 or 5 nights out of 7 I continue to work. Either I'm doing podcasts, I have live events. When I don't have podcasts and live events, we will sit in front of the TV and I will continue to work. So I like, because I can't just sit in front of the TV, because I'm like, there are so many things to be done. And so like this week we were watching Luther and I was doing all my account reconciliation. I've spent 6 hours reconciling my accounts, and I'm not finished. So I know that the next night that we sit down and do that, I will be finishing my accounting so I can hand it off. Oh shit, today. I need to add that to my list to do today.
Yeah, it's tax season.
It's the end of the tax year for me today. Yeah. And so then I will either go and have a bath, or if I have a shower, I'm like in and out. Just get it done, get out. And then I get into bed and I read for as long as my eyes don't bleed, and then I pass out and I rinse and repeat. That is my life. And then at the weekend, my weekends are not restful. I have a wife who has chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and because of that, she is very afraid of slowing down, because when she tends to slow down, she tends to then have an ME crash, and so then she'll be bedridden for like 3 weeks. So she pushes, and you know, so I at the weekend usually, like, I try not to work, but invariably there's stuff that happens. We're quite hands-on people, so we're always building something, or we're doing DIY, or we are going for walks or going for bikes, or we're driving 2 hours to see family, and then we're with family all day, which I find draining, and then we're driving 2 hours back. It's exhausting. I very rarely find a restful weekend. I'm usually fucking exhausted by the end of Sunday, and then it starts again. So I don't rest, to answer your question. But I think rest looks different for different people. So I genuinely get a serious amount of energy from reading. And I think that is why I have increased the amount that I read so much. Like, if I don't read for an hour a day, it's a problem. The next day, it's a problem. Like, I didn't read last night. I woke up bone fucking tired this morning. And it's like, that is that one moment that I get in the day, that 1 hour to read to myself. And actually, I've gotten in a bit of a bad habit of like checking my phone, and then I'm like reading a paragraph, checking my phone. So I've had to like the other day, I read a whole book in a night. Well, less, about 50 pages. I read the whole book, and it's only because I didn't pick up my phone. And I was like, oh yeah, I actually can read quickly. Well, it wasn't quickly because
you also don't remember what you read on your phone, but you remember the book.
Yeah,
I find.
Yeah, but like when I don't have interruptions, I can actually read. And it like obviously took me several hours. Like, I'm not a fast reader. I just spend lots of time reading. The other thing that I do regularly is I have baths with a bath bomb, and I read. And I had gotten into a bad habit of taking my phone in there, and I'm trying very hard not to take my phone in there now. And I'm just having like 20 minutes, half an hour to read. But like, that is literally the 20 minutes in a day. That's it. That's the only time that I get to myself. But then there are other, so like, and I suppose this is very typical of somebody who Phoenix burns, because I either rest 100% or I work 100%, and there's not a lot in between. So like, when we go on holiday and it's like a 2-week break, for example, in the sun, I take my laptop, but it's purely to make sure my ads don't spend too much, that like, if there's anything desperately urgent, it gets dealt with. But like, that's it. I don't work, and I rest 100%. Like, when we go away for 2 weeks, I'll read like between 15 and 20 books. Do you know what I mean? Like, I will just sit and I will read for hours and hours and hours, and I'll swim with the kid in the sea, and we'll all have dinner together without our phones. And it's like amazing. So like, it's not like it's not like I don't rest ever, but I don't rest regularly, is what I would say. I Phoenix burn in the same way with my rest, I would say. And then there are other things that I do. So like, occasionally at the weekend I will try and book like interesting trips or whatever. So like we'll go to a museum or a castle, or we'll, you know, and though I do find those things, it's really hard because it's also work, right? But like so much of our life is work. Like so much of, you can't be a writer and not derive inspiration from the things that you see and do and interact with, right? It's just who we are. It is every fiber of our being. So like I will book these museum tours or whatever, or the castles, but my brain is still working.
Yeah.
So I don't know, there are a certain handful of things that I find super restful. So number one is the bath and book. That is, and that is incredibly, as long as I don't take my phone in there. Number two is the cinema. So at the weekend I went to see Batman by myself because Chloe, I was meant to go with Chloe, and then one of our friends' partners got COVID, and so they went to London. She got her ticket and they went to some comedy show. So I was like, well, I'm still going to see Batman because I've waited weeks and I'm not missing Batman. So I went and saw it. And like,
is it worth seeing? I'm a bit over
Yes.
Batman at this point.
It was an interesting experience.
Okay, I'm not going to go then.
Yeah. Yeah. So
the Bath cinema.
Yeah, the cinema, and then like actual holidays where we go away and I'm not in the house. If I'm in the house, I don't rest. I don't stop. Like for a girl who sits at her desk most days, I will get between 8 and 10,000 steps. And I'm at my desk sat for like 6 straight hours most days. Impressive. So yeah, I don't know. I would like to tell you that I rest more than I do, but I don't. And I'm not wildly happy about it. But also, I don't think I need, proportionately, I don't think I need as much rest on a regular basis as other people, because I store up a lot of energy pennies when I do stop, if that makes sense. So then like I wear down that pot. So I'm still generating the same, I'm still getting the same amount of rest. It's just in a different way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, definitely sort of interesting takes. And the question kind of comes from, you know, I'm doing lots of research at the minute for the productivity book. And in order to produce, you also have to rest. But like actually defining what rest looks like at which stages of your life and, you know, what's going on is really difficult to kind of pin down. Because I know that when I was sort of in the day job and there was lots of family life stuff going, like my rest generally was the 20-minute bike ride to work. So it was exercise plus an audiobook. That was my time. That was my like 20 minutes just in the sun, in the rain, whatever it was.
Well, and this is the other interesting aspect of this, right? So, and this is why I'm so fucked off with not having written many words. Even though I expend energy writing words, it also creates energy for me for like a number of different strengths for me. And so not getting to write words is also detrimental because it creates energy in a different way.
Yeah.
So like, even though I will be mentally fucked by the end of the day after having written words, like there's another part of me that's very energized by that activity and that action. So it's a very weird, like I think people have a expectation of what rest should look like, and I don't think that expectation is always right.
No,
I think that rest looks different for different people.
Yeah, and it's been a journey for me to try and understand what rest looks like, because especially, you know, when you move into a new house by yourself and you also then have COVID, like the options for the things that you can do to entertain yourself to rest are very, very limited. And, you know, there's a reason that I wrote a lot in 2020. Partly as a coping mechanism, partly because I just moved, partly because, like, you know, there's this unleashed a sort of torrent of creative energy. But as a creative, you kind of say, like, as you say, as a writer, I think for all sort of creative arts, it is a lifestyle. And so what I found very early on was I would try and take a week off and say, like, I'm not going to touch anything writing this week. I'm just going to like stay away from the writing. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to do other things. And it made me unhappy. It made me genuinely unhappy. Because, you know, you get that pull to be like, oh, I actually do want to write something. And it's like, no, not this week. And I think it's a balancing act. But what I now say is I'm going to take a week away from whatever except for anything I want to work on, because I think there's that difference between stuff that you're expected to work on during the week because this is your routine and what has to happen, versus I fancy doing this and trying something different and having a bit of fun, and there's play in there. I do think, especially from where I'm at in my journey, and part of the reason I'm looking for other communities to join, very, very specifically, not within writing, is because I do think I need to have something that isn't anchored in creativity and art, something that I will automatically grow. Because I feel like if I was to join a local writing group of any kind, I am likely to be several steps ahead of some of the people in that group. And what I don't want that to then turn out to be is like me like teaching or in any way kind of like going into that role. Like I want something where I can start like as novice level and then like learn from other people, just meet other people. And it is separate to writing. So I think there is a place to have something outside of the creative arts that you can do, whether that is seeing family or going for a bike ride, whatever it is. I know that our mutual friend Julie Heiner, she hikes like 5 times a week because that's brain space and that's like her happy place, and then she'll write the rest of it and just create incredible things. What do you want to say?
I can wait until the end. I've got quite a few things to say on what you're saying.
Okay. But yeah, it has been an ever-evolving journey, and it's hard to rest. It's fucking hard to rest because, like you say, you don't switch your brain off. And we trained ourselves into a way in which you watch a film or a TV show and you're trying to enjoy it, but you're analyzing it. What did they do so well here? How can I use this in a book? And then you'll read a book and be like, oh, this is very entertaining, but also, that word choice. How that, and everything, like you say, creativity is inspiration. Inspiration comes from the world and everything that we do. So I think it's impossible as a creative to escape to complete quote rest. I think rest just looks different to what a lot of people consider it to be. I don't know how I'd take time off without doing something creative, whether that's like sketching stupid doodles or outlining something for a part of the world, just writing like a few turns of phrase for a short story, like reading. I'm very similar to you in that baths are one of my happy places, and that was something that I've slowly allowed myself to do more of, because I was like, I really like shut down in the bath and I'll sit and I'll read and I'll just relax and it'll just be like away from everything. But then I have the ever angling voice in my head of my mother, like, you can't have a bath every night, that wastes water. And now I'm like, I'm 31, I pay for my water, fuck you, I'm gonna have as many baths as I want to. But it's weird as well, the kind of hang-ups that we have from sort of previous lives and how they influence what we think we should and shouldn't be doing. So baths are a big one for me. I do enjoy running. I've recently gotten back into running, and there's something, because meditation is fantastic and I do well with meditation. I just seem to struggle to get into a routine of doing it. But what I've discovered is like, there are different ways to meditate. There is moving meditation. There is still silent meditation. And running for me is a form of meditation because I can go out without headphones on. I can run, and it's about focusing on the next step. That's all you've got to do, because your body does begin to ache. But for people who haven't run, like, this is something that blew my mind when I discovered it, was like, you run to the point that you're uncomfortable and your legs start to hurt. And obviously this changes more as you train more often. But there comes a point of like stable discomfort, I guess, in which it doesn't hurt anymore and you can just keep running. You just have to get used to running and stepping on that cloud of discomfort.
First 5k was always painful for me. After 5k I could run up to half a marathon without many problems.
Last 2 years ago when I was in my first sort of solo house and I was doing a lot of running, I got up to like 10k it was by accident, but that was a case of 1.5k, okay, 2k, and then pretty much from 2k onwards it was just, all right, this is how it feels, just sit in discomfort. And it is a form of meditation. It shuts down your brain, it makes you focus. Obviously it's good for your body because it's exercise. So whether it's crocheting, whether it's cycling, whether it's hiking, whether it's painting, whatever it is, like, rest doesn't have to be stopping like entirely if that doesn't work for you. Some people do very well from just going like, I'm going to lounge on the sofa for 4 hours, but know thyself.
I think there are so many different types of rest, and it depends which energy pot has been drained. So it's funny that you talk about joining a group. I've literally, somebody who's in my taekwondo group is part of a local entrepreneurs group. And about a week ago, I reached out to her and was like, I really need a network locally. Like, what were the things that you said that you were doing? And so, yeah, she sent me this event thing that I need to sign up to. But yeah, like it's interesting because I think there are so many different, like sometimes I can be physically tired and then actually sitting on my ass is what I need to do. And then like other times it'll be, sorry, my sister. Other times there'll be like different types of drains. So like maybe it's creatively drained, and then usually I have to do something or see something. For me at the moment, I would say I am socially drained, and not because I've had social interaction, but because I haven't.
Yeah.
And like I was saying to Chloe the other day, I have got to find some people locally, because like I didn't want to go and see Batman on my own, but I literally didn't have anyone else to ask. Like I asked my neighbor because I know that her husband likes going to the cinema, and her husband is really good friends with Chloe. So I was like, oh, maybe he'll go with me. But he was busy. And I was literally like, I literally don't have anybody else to ask. And that I shouldn't be in that situation. But that partly that is because of COVID, and partly it's because we've moved. And so all the network that I had has gone. And the other part of that is that everybody I know is either pregnant or having kids, have had kids.
Yep.
And so they're like
that hits.
Yeah. But I am 8 years past that.
Yeah.
I have a preteen essentially, or like a late kid preteen.
That hits home. Yep.
And I've moved school 3 times, so I don't have a mum network. I don't have any mum friends. I don't really have friends locally. Like all my friends are either not in the country or they're miles away. And like, so I was saying to Chloe, I am so exhausted by not having anybody locally that I can see. So we have a couple of mutual friends, of course, like, and we've seen, but like those mutual friends came because of her, not because of me. Do you know what I mean? So like they have accepted me into the fold rather than me having brought friends to our, relationship. Like, and so the last time I saw anybody who is genuinely my friend first is either the last time I saw you, which I don't remember when that was, or when I went for drinks with Joe and Orna last summer in June.
That was
June last summer. June last year. That's the last social thing I did. Like, that's not, like, that is a drain,
Yeah. And it's weird as well, like stepping back into seeing people is also draining, which is the ironic, because I'm groomsman for one of my old uni friends this year, and we did it was just 4 of us around his house a couple of weeks ago for like drinks and games and stuff, and that was the first time I'd done anything like that since before COVID. And it was that thing of like, this is really nice, but at the same time I'm like, I don't know how to do this right now.
So like the reason I haven't signed up to that event that this taekwondo lady sent me is because I'm like, oh god, I really don't want to do that. Like I do need to do it. I need to, and I do want to do it, but also I'm like, oh my god, even the thought of doing it is draining, because I've lost that ability to be social. And that is probably like the biggest area of rest that I need, that I don't have. Is that social rest, that ability just to go to somebody, oh, do you fancy a coffee at lunch? Or
yes please.
So maybe that should be my quarter goal. That would be a really genuinely useful quarter goal. I don't quite know how I would
make 7 friends.
No, but I think it would be more about the actions that I would take, like force myself to introduce myself to someone, or like, I don't know. I will think about it, but that would be like a great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are right
Because-
as well, like the different elements of, there's social, there's physical, there's emotional, there's
Yeah.
like even financial rest. Like I am currently in a place of unrest with finances because I'm cutting a big chunk of my money, which is then going to drain my energy for the next few months until I can get stable again. So, there are lots of factors to consider to put yourself in a place of ease.
Yeah. Interesting question.
Boom. Wrapped up. Okay, cool. So as we say, next week we'll do all of the announcements for the Q1 challenge for 2022. But from myself and from Sacha, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Hungry for more?
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of my angelic accent and Dan's dulcet tones on our other podcasts.
For more of me, check out the Activated Authors podcast.
For more of me, listen to the Rebel Author podcast. We'll be back next week holding each other to account as Dan
And Sacha
become
Next level.
authors.
Dance, monkey, dance.
I don't want to dance. I'm so tired. My soul is tired.
If you don't dance, I'm going to totally stop recording this podcast with you, and then you'll have to suffer the consequences.
Let's do it. Let's go.
Nah, fam.